this Vega machine out of the way. That's the next target. Should be live. Let's see. Let me get some folks in. Get logged in here so I can see some chat. Got Miss BBT here tonight with us too. Gonna do a quick stream, guys. I was actually working on an episode tonight, and I was gonna try to get that out. Probably won't be till tomorrow on that. But was working through this earlier this morning, and then in the late part of the afternoon, and got this through. If you guys have been following us on Twitter, we got 16 running in Windows right now. Now I'm going to walk you guys through how we did it, how we got everything running. That way you guys can replicate this if you're in this kind of situation where you're just trying to get, you know, 8 other, you know, 8 AMD, 8 NVIDIA working with this B250 Mining Expert motherboard, and you're just going to be using Windows. You don't want to. You want to try different algorithms. Right now, there's only a few use cases right now with this motherboard with using 16 to 19 that has to do with NVOS, and if you're all NVIDIA. If you see a lot of the guys that are on YouTube right now that have this board working with 19, you notice all the builds are NVIDIA builds. They're all 1060s, or I think, well, the other one I saw was a 1080 Ti on 13 cards, and then they had to use the P106s using Linux build to get 19 on this. So what we wanted to try to do before we went and did the work to get 19 working with the AMD cards is see if we could get 16 in Windows, and we got that accomplished. So I'm starting you off right now in the Windows view to show you the device manager with the P106 90s. Those are the 3 gig Mining cards. You can kind of see the glow. They're kind of green. They're green when they're working, and they are blue when they're not. We'll do a reboot in a little bit here. And you can see the current speed on that, and I'll show you through the settings that we have currently on these. And then the RX470 AMD cards. These are the Nitro Mining Cards. We've had a few videos on them. And these cards here are 3 different types of memory. You got Hynix, Samsung, and Elpida. We have the Elpida and the Samsung right here. And the cards that are doing 27.5 mega hash right now are the Samsung memory with our mod on it. And then the few Elpida ones that are in there are the 28.7. They're all using the same clocks. I'll go through that also with you guys and show you guys that. We're going to again try to make this a pretty quick stream, answer some questions if we can, let some other folks get in here, but I wanted to leave it on this screen for a second as people started to come in. You can see how long we've had it up, a little over 5 hours. You can see that on that indicator right over here. It's right there. Oh, it's probably under the thing there. Right down here, you can see the 5 hours, 3 minutes there, and then 5 hours, 18 minutes, which you probably can't see behind that little screen here. We'll bring it down here. Here is the other. So I wanted to let you guys see them running stable, over 5 hours. And we got actually 3 kilowatt meters on this tonight. So this actual, let me switch back to this real quick and give you kind of the full screen. Oh, of course I don't have the Stream Deck having focused. Stream Deck has to have focus to function in this. Let's go back here. So essentially the power situation we got going on here, we got the EVGA Supernova 1200 P2 powering the board, the 8-pin, and a handful of the cards with some of the risers. And that's on 1 kilowatt. That is the darker color kilowatt right here, which you can see if I go this screen here. That is running about 734 watts of power right now. I'm jacking this up right here. It's kind of, I had it kind of just barely sitting there. We'll move it again. 730 watts there. And then this is like a catastrophe going on right here. And then the other kilowatts are about running 534 watts, and that's on this 2400 watt kind of, I call it the China PSU. And then we have the wireless one here, which you can see it right down here. That's the other side. So the actual China PSU right now is using about 1,000 watts. There's the 529 that it's using on the other line. And I'll bring this back as folks understand. It's got two power inlets here. So one of the kilowatts on that, and the other kilowatt, the wireless one's on the other line. And then that's the power situation. So we're looking at about 1,700, what's that, about 1,800 watts of power right now being used for all this. So 530, that's 1060, and then 740. So 760 plus another 40. So yeah, 1,800 watts we're at right now, total power usage for this whole setup. Looking at some of the comments there. So not too bad, I guess, for it's 1,800 watts for, let's see here, we got, let's go back to this screen here, 174, and then 222, so 322, almost 400 mega hash for 1,800 watts. Probably about average, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the 1060s aren't using any power at all. But we'll take some questions, and then I'll move on to trying some other algorithms with you guys here.
Can you use a kilowatt
On the 2400? But which one?
No, like if you're using
No, you cannot use these kilowatts on the 240, the 220. You need to get a special one for that. You'll blow that right away. Right when you plug it in, it'll go pop. So our next little venture here will be trying some other algorithms out. I wanted to make sure that folks saw what they were doing and that they were stable over the 5-hour period with these configs. And we'll put the configs down there in the bottom of the description. The settings that we're running right now, we'll bring that up actually right now. That way you guys can see that. So you can see the cards there. We'll take that down for a second. The do not have a mouse pad here, and this thing is not like that. I stole the mouse pad. Huh?
The minions are underneath the rig.
Oh yeah, there's no getting that. Without a potential disaster occurring. Disaster is my word. We'll let this run right out. So under the multi-miner, we had to do a couple things. One, you saw the cards going. So here, let me first start this real quick before I get in this. So I'm going to explain how you get this working first. Very first out of the gate, if you already have a pre-built hard drive with Windows on it, with nothing else on it, or if you had cards on it before, you need to boot that drive up with nothing plugged in, just on the motherboard. Run a DDU on it, remove both your NVIDIA and your AMD drivers right out of the gate. Just remove them with DDU. Let it reboot, remove the other driver set. It sets and flags the OS not to auto start trying to install shit. You want to make sure that that's a thing. You shut it back down, you plug in all your cards, every one of them, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to restart this. I'm going to show you kind of the way this looks now that we're up. Let me close these out. I'll switch back, and I'm going to show you a restart. This is the way the board will look after you plug all your stuff in. And there's the slots that you use. So you can see the last 3 at the end is the ones we're not using in slot C. Once that comes up after you've ran DDU, you do your AMD drivers first and then you do your NVIDIA drivers. It's just, we did them both ways and it seemed like it liked it that way better. And I'm just telling you what we did to make sure that it worked. And where we're at right now to where we can mine with all of them. So I'm giving you the entire sequence. And when you first reboot Windows, it's not real fast. It's not super rapid. It kind of reminds me of the way Linux works when you have over 13 GPUs, where it kind of sets there and the screen doesn't fire. You see it right there. Now it fires. You got to give it time. That's why I wanted to make sure I was walking you guys through. I wasn't even going to make this video. I was going to make just an episode of it. And I was like, you know, what I want to make sure people understand is the timing. How long that took. Because if you sat there and saw that screen, it doesn't look like the machine's booting. It's just sitting there. You got to give it that kind of time. Now this has the i3-7350K, which is the 4.2 gigahertz i3, so it's a little faster. If you're running, you know, 1950 or a you know, Celeron or a G4400, it might be a little slower. It's only a 2-core processor. Now this only has 4 gigs of RAM. Let me bring this up here. This is what's in the machine right now, an i3-7350K. And again, when we're doing the build like this, I use that faster processor because I like things to happen quicker when we're trying to do some testing. If this was getting deployed out to part of the rig farm, that would get dropped down to a G4400 with just 4 gigs of memory and it's good to go. But when we're doing builds and we're testing things, I want a fast, cheap processor. I don't need an i7. You don't need an i7 for that kind of stuff. You just need the fastest core that's for the cheapest price. It's about a $139 processor. It gives you the kind of speed. It is about a 20% increase, 30% of real, like, what's going on when it's installing things and when it's loading things up. It's a lot faster than just a G4400. So I like the speed when we're doing that kind of stuff. You don't need more than 4 gigs of RAM on that kind of stuff. We've tried it both with 4 and 8. I see no difference at all. I mean, there's nothing tangible you can see in this kind of operation with 8 gigs. So this is the Manly overclocking software. This is the way it looks when you go into advanced with it. It only allows it to touch and talk to the P106s. So this software here you can use. You can download this software. We'll make sure it's on the link below. You can download this software and use with your cards. With any of your 1060s, 1070s, this software actually works with your stuff too. So if you're having some issues with like Afterburner or something like that, EVGA Precision, this Manly tool, I have tested it with now the PNY 1070s. I've tried it with 1080 Ti's. It runs and does a good job with letting the overclocks and stuff work there. If you like that dial and just want to do it something a little different. But this is the settings that we have on there for the Manlys. Actually, it pulled the settings off. I had them a little faster than that. So I was running 70 on the core. Now you don't normally need the 70 on the core, right, for Ethereum, but these cards are like voltage locked right now, and I can't give them any more power limit. When they're running 0 core, they only get like 19 to 20 mega hash. That's it. If I put 70 on it, it actually juices the card a little more. It goes from 65 watts to 72 TDP. And it actually makes the card work a little harder and gives me a little more cycles. So it actually makes the Ethereum mining go all the way up to 23, 22 and a half, somewhere around there. So you got to put that to 70 if you have these Manly cards. And then you can do 700 on these and apply that. Let that spin. Now this takes a little bit when it goes and applies this. And I don't know if it's doing a test in the background or what it's doing. It's just sitting there. It pauses for a second, but it does commit it to the cards. And it seems to be a lot more stable piece of software than Afterburner for at least these P106 cards. So we'll let that get set. That'll set here in a second. Again, showing you guys the full timing. on how long that takes. It takes about 20, 22 seconds, something like that. I think we measured it just to see with a little iPhone stopwatch, just to see, make sure that it gets it committed. And then we'll move on to the AMDs, which I'm actually doing right now in the actual inline edit on the actual multi-miner. While that's figuring its life out, I'm going to bring up multi-miner here. And essentially we have, you can delete this copy here, we're not using that. This, we'll get rid of that. Right here, we had to make two copies of the actual multi-miner's main bat file. I think this thing's finally, no, it's still cooking. So in this, if we look and we edit this bat file, you can see right here, when you choose option 3 in the multi-miner, that takes you to the Claymore version right here to mine just Ethereum. You have to have that /DI switch, and for the NVIDIA cards, you essentially have, let me explain this real quick and I'll come back to this. When you're using that /DI switch in Claymore, it's essentially assigning what port you're trying to target that particular line to run the mining software. So you're saying, in this particular case, if we had the AMD one open instead of the NVIDIA one, I open up the NVIDIA bat file and then I have an AMD bat file because I have AMD cards and I have NVIDIA cards. If I open up the AMD bat file first, I would have slots 0 through 8, or 0 through 7. So ports 0 through 7. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in there. Save that bat file with the DI, and that's just going to target the AMD cards. In this bat file, it goes to 8, 9, and then after you get into a 2-digit numeric, you have to switch over to alpha. So you go A, B, C, D, E, F, G for 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16. So then you just count your ABCs up to what is the alpha to the numeric, meaning like A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and you count out 8 characters, right? So in this particular case, the first 8 cards, with 0 being a number, and for the AMDs, you start here at 8, 9, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, which is the other 8. So I know it sounds a little confusing, but I want to just explain on why we're mixing those two things, and that's what targets you to be able to distinguish between your NVIDIA cards and your AMD cards in the bat file. So we come back here, that's why this one says NVIDIA, and when I choose option 3, it's just targeting those cards, because those are the port numbers. This thing finally got done. You can see there's no spinning on here, and that actually took a lot longer than normal, but we'll let it go. Bottom line, it finished. If you were to try to like move it or click it, it would have went all grayed out like normal, and Windows is working on something and it grays it out because it's not responding. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has froze up. The big key theme tonight is patience. You gotta have patience with some of this stuff, especially working with Windows. So that got that set. These P106s now are at 700 megahertz, and your GPU clock right now is at 70. So we're gonna minimize that. We can close that. We'll click over to the AMD file over here, Ethereum. We'll scroll up. Inside this bat file, this is Ethereum option. Well, it's Ethereum Classic. Ethereum, here we go. Ethereum option number 3, and then here's that 0 through 7 that I was talking about. Now you'll see something a little different in this one because I'm actually telling Claymore to go ahead and set the clocks for these AMD cards. We're running 1080 and 2000 memory speed on these. So when we go and choose AMD, it comes up and we choose option 3, it's going to run that line that I was just pointing at. Because that's just a pointer. We're saying go down to there and run that. There you go. You see the 8 cards. They come up. It's going to force those cards to run at those settings that we had. that'll start to spin those up. You'll see these things start to climb because they got some energy running through them now. It's already accepting shares. And there we go, 222.8. That's cooking. We come into the NVIDIA, we run that. All it's doing is just rerunning that same bat file, but it hasn't been executed yet. I hit 3 on that, same thing. It's pointing to the other NVIDIA cards. We're going to see that fire up. And they're the P106s. So there's those 8. That's the big part, is you got to distinguish it. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to kind of go in there and to distinguish it. Carter sounded tired the last few videos. Guys, I've been so busy. I got, like everybody that follows us, I got a day job that keeps me super, super busy. And then I do this as a hobby for you guys and try to build a strong community on making sure that people know how to interact with this stuff. This is something that we firmly believe in, this technology and this methodology of anybody being able to participate in the good and the bad times. Right now it's like a neutral time. It's not super, super profitable. People are still making money on it. It's not all in the red, but we try not to, why I do talk on the pricing side, sometimes. We'll let this run for a second. Why I do talk on the pricing side, because it is relevant for people that are investing time and money into it. I try to just make sure from a technical side I'm not losing sight of that, because that's the roots of this station or this channel, is to make sure you guys know how, and we work with each other. You guys always send me notes about stuff. We see it in the Discord too, and we're not the end all be all on this. We have to research it too. We have to do a lot of iterative testing and see what works, what doesn't, and then we're trying to just make sure that we're collaborating with everybody and not having this huge paywall or any kind of thing like that. You guys contribute by clicking our links and sharing our stuff and all that kind of stuff, and we try to make sure that you guys know how to what works for us, and then you guys can see that with no strings attached to it.
You said the word day job, now everybody's asking.
What's that?
Day job.
What about my day job?
In generalities, yes.
I work on, I do a lot of stuff with big systems, Oracle, Microsoft, big corporate systems, and it's like a solution architect. Let's just call it that. So I work on big systems and make sure that they can get deployed, and that any kind of migrations and that kind of stuff. That's what I do as a day job, and there's a lot of responsibility in that. It's running development teams. My background goes from running large development teams, cradle to grave development, the whole 9 yards on that. So Scrum Master, all that kind of stuff. So that kind of stuff is the day job. That's what keeps the lights on, does all that kind of stuff. This stuff is the hobby and making sure, I like tech and anybody else on this kind of stuff. I mean, we eat this up. I like having all the different, trial and error of this stuff. Kind of like a YouTube reviewer, but a little more than just the cookie cutter reviews, doing 8 different, like the same game, on different hardware and all that kind of stuff. I want to see really what's this stuff capable of. Get kind of into the development side of it too, if we need to try to figure it out. The harder problems on it. And this stuff is balled up enough sometimes that you have to unwind it a little more than the traditional out of the box, does it work, and that kind of stuff. I did put a catchy title on this one to see if this thing runs Minecraft. We could actually try that. I have no idea if one of this kind of setup would actually run a game. It would be interesting. I mean, we're going to be down a channel, or at least running on 1X. It probably wouldn't be super fast, but it would be kind of funny.
You said, are you hiring?
Am I hiring? Not just yet. We grow this up, and this channel ever became viral, and maybe the only way it would become viral is if we kind of hedged on some of the other larger review stuff and did some other things like that, because we're trying to keep it. I don't want to confuse people when they come here to say, well, are we doing game reviews? Are we doing render reviews? Or are we doing mining? And we're trying to keep it mining centric. That's kind of what BBT is in general, but who's to say that maybe there might be alt channels at some point with other people working it, and we can try some of the other hardware, because we do run into the same kind of level of hardware that Jay and everybody else uses, and at scale. So I mean, we have some opportunity to probably do some crazier stuff for sure. I am interested in like how Blender or one of those things would work. I think it needs the actual bus channel though. I don't know if those things will post-process very well on 1X. I'll have to research it. I mean, if you guys are interested in that, drop comments below. We can look at doing some render tests with Blender and SETI and all those other kind of things, folding at home and all that kind of stuff. But I want to say that those need the data channel bus speed, that it isn't like just mining where you don't need the bandwidth. And see, let's come back to this guy and see what this thing's doing. Alright, so we know what it does on ETH. We already pushed these man cards. I know if we push these up to closer to 1,000 on the memory, we can get these to about 23.5, but they're not super stable. This seems to be the best stability that we get out of these. I think if we push the memory speed on the AMDs, I think we can burst a little further, but I don't know if it makes it unstable. We can give it a try though. Let's try it with some different algorithms though. That was ETH. Let's go in here and do some we have to do some editing with this every time because of the DI switch here. We gotta point it and make sure it's got the right. I'm just gonna copy this one right now for the NVIDIA file. I'm gonna scroll down. We're going to give it a, I don't know if I had that on Ubik. I think I do. Ubik had the import at 0 there. We're going to get rid of that.
You said if you do an episode in a mankini, it will go viral.
A mankini? Yeah, no. You don't want to see me in a mankini. Maybe if I take on a challenge and take on like a weight challenge or something, maybe I can get into a mankini at some point.
Someone said that Barnacle uses his miner as a render machine.
Yeah, but Barnacles, the difference between Barnacles' miner, if anybody has seen his, let's try to, I don't know if that'll do that, but let's try it. 2050 on the memory. I'm just curious if we'll save that real quick and try that on ETH. See if that runs at 2050. The difference on Barnacles' miner is his is in full 16x slots. His is a server board, so he's got full bus to do some of those other render activities. He's in the actually 16x slots. He's got 8 16x slots on that server board that he's on, and that's got dual Xeons on it. And I think he had 64 gigs of RAM in it, if I recall correctly. So we just bumped up about 0.2 on the 2050. So not much. I don't know if that's stable. So not much at all. Let's try some different algorithms. And I actually might have just changed that on. I think I just ran that and ran the wrong one. I think I did that under Ubik. Let me take a look. You could use the 3D printer for the mankini. Yeah, that's more like it. There's it's about 1 and so you can see the Samsung card or the Alpida cards really like that memory setting, 29.1. We're almost getting 30 mega hash out of them. The Samsung are still stuck at 27.5. Close that out. We'll come back in here. We're going to change this to 2100. I don't know. We'll just go till it crashes, I guess, right? But didn't really press these too much. I was more going for stability, but now I'm intrigued to see if these mining cards can actually run stable. These things are defaulted at 1750, so oh, it's accepting shares. Holy crap! Now I think it stepped it down. 28.5. I think it said nope. Alright, that was cool. I wanted to make sure that it would run, if it wouldn't bust 30. Oh, here I am trying to test, or changing it in the wrong area again. Let's try this. I ran, that's Ethereum, so let me check it on Ethereum. It's a little more. We've got about 8 mega hashes more. That's on Ethereum. And that DAG's a little bigger. We're using too bad of power. About the same power, 230. Our let's see here, 200 on the main power supply, but that's got the NVIDIA cards on it, and about the same, about 1,060 watts for the 8. So from 222 to 230. And while we're doing that, might as well. I do not know how this will work. We'll see. Oh, we're already running it. Try to press these to 900. Alright, now let's do 870. I think that's. We'll see the max that we can get out of these, and then we'll try some different algorithms. Let that thing get updated. Manually update takes a second. These things right now look like they're holding stable. Holding about 64, 65 Celsius, 42% fan speed. That's the one thing I noticed about these AMD mining cards is they definitely run cooler. That seems to be the common theme. You do that stuff on an older RX470, and you got to run those cards a lot. If you don't have any external, with no backplate. I mean, these are pretty basic cards, so those would be running like 80, 82 Celsius right now. Not these cards. Nope, we're waiting for it. That's what I was talking about. If you click it, you gotta let it sit there. I'll answer some questions while we're waiting for that. Next Windows usage is going to show GPU usage. There's a lot of updates coming with that next Windows update. There's some speculation that they're gonna open up the threads on it to allow more exotic driver development to where we could have more than the 8 and the 8. We're super interested in that. If that occurs, at least that's what all the manufacturers have been touting, is that there'll be a driver update, or at least a platform update for the drivers to be allowing more than the 8 cards per driver. All right, there's that. See that? That finished out. Let's go ahead and run this. Run an ETH there. Let's run ETH here. There we go. Almost. Oh nope, getting incorrect shares. That red right there is showing that it is not liking that speed. I think that's why we're keeping it around 700. Do 780. Then we'll try some Zcash. Any thoughts on the 1070 Ti that's coming out? We're looking forward to it. I haven't seen a lot of the specs out. Trying to mod the BIOS with the B250 board. We have not modded the BIOS on the B250. We've only modded the BIOSes on the AMD cards. Alright, so that is still working. And I'm going to click that just that way I know when it actually finishes. I'll let that run. I'll see if 2100 is stable on these RX cards. These RX mining cards are about 260, 250, somewhere around there. You can find them. How about running NVIDIA Docker? I've not tried to do any mining through a Docker image or any kind of virtualization at all. I don't see why you technically couldn't, as long as you could address the threads directly and you didn't have to have some kind of virtual addressing to the GPUs that are attached to the machine that's running the virtualization. You should be able to do that. We'll leave this on the setting next. That way we don't have to mess with it anymore. I was just trying to get some actual good performance out of these. There it goes. The mining cards, the P106s. Here, I'm gonna sit down real quick and set some settings up. We'll bring up GPU-Z here in a second too. There we go, 177 again. Okay. We'll cool those down. Bring up some GPU Z for you guys can see that. And we'll leave this up too. That way you guys can see the sensors and some of this stuff. This takes a second because it's got to do its little port scan across each one of those interfaces. There you go here. So you can see right now the clocks that we just forced onto them. Which one?
Can you make the fonts bigger?
Yeah. You don't see much with these. Let me, I think I can personalize. Oh, I don't know if I can.
Bring up the task manager. They want to see the new Windows 10 GPU monitor screen.
I don't know if it's on that. Is it deployed yet? Oh, I haven't activated this one yet. Hold on. Display settings. Here, 150% scaling. This isn't the new, if it's going to give you GPU performance here, right here, it's not on this one. But you can see the drop down here. All different cards. Showing the base memory at 20. I wonder if we could do. Edit with Notepad.
You can right click on MS. Does Windows to make the font bigger.
We're way past that. We already did that. We're good. Font is freaking huge. Let's do it. Let's do it. 2200. Let's do it. Oh, it blew up. Wait a minute, that's not right. Nope. This is old. These are old. Just clicking on the wrong one. Edit. You can do it. Ah. Oh. Fell to a set. Oh, blew up, blew up.
How many GPUs do you have running right now?
Huh?
How many GPUs do you really have running right now?
16. $21.50. Three. Here's 8. Well, this font's gonna cover up. It's too big. And here's the NVIDIA's. Here's the other 8.
It's too fast. It's too fast. We're going to change the display settings here. We'll go down to 125. Oh, we probably blew it. I think we blew the driver. Or at least it blew the messaging of the driver. We're going to restart it real quick. Alright, we're going to play with the other algorithms, and then we'll take some questions. And we'll wrap this one up. I just wanted to show you guys some change of the settings in there and playing around. While that's rebooting, I'll take some more questions. Hold on my Udik. I dare you to run that 4-way splitter. We ran the 4-way splitter on this. It works fine. Can you run all 16 of the the Claymore dual miner? No. Sixteen's illegal, you gotta be 18. Yeah, that's very true. Let this reboot. I'll show you guys what happens when you try to launch them all. There, it's back up. So if we come in here, let's take a look at the basic multi-miner. Edit with Notepad++. Yes. That's the turbo engine tool. Let's make sure it's got an overclock. I don't know if it... I don't have it set to save the overclock. Damn it. Hold on. I can come into settings here. Overclock on startup. Minimize on startup, apply, advanced, 70, whoa, not 740, we might see sparks on 780. Apply, yes, we'll let that do its thing in the background. So, here is... Yeah, we'll just choose any of these because there's no DI setting here under 3. So while we're waiting for that, for people that have no idea what I'm looking at right now, this is the multi-miner bat file. You set all your addresses up here. When you download this from us, you need to change these items. Anything that you're going to mine, you want to change your address. Otherwise, you're mining for us. We love you, but you probably want your own crypto. So you need to change that. You'll need to change this for the for stuff like supernova.cc. If you're mining there, it needs your basic web login, just the username. This is the worker password. It's usually always X, and then give it a miner name. If you want to get responded on email, that's incorrect there. You set an email if your worker's offline. That's where you get your information from there. Those are the only things you really have to switch. After that, all this stuff is just basic script code that just says when you pull up the multi-miner, this is the stuff that fires, and then these are the pointers. If you select number 1, it goes down here and it says you have number 1, go to Ethereum 1. So then it goes down, looks for this, and you see that green how it highlighted Ethereum 1? It goes and it runs everything until it hits the pause. That's what's going on. So when you press 1, it goes to here. It echoes this, that's what shows on the screen, and then it runs this command. And then while you can have all your addresses and stuff, it points up to your ETH address. It says, hey, I need an ETH address. Oh, go up to the top and grab that. What's the miner name? Oh, go up to the top and grab that. Then it comes to here. It says if it runs into an error, go to the next thing in line, which is down here. Otherwise, pause. That's all. That's a brief description of how the multi-miner works. And then these are all the different addresses and changes and stuff like that. So you don't usually have to mess with any of this because you're just messing with the stuff up here on the top. You change your settings up here and then it just reads it. That's the multi-miner kind of crash course. So this is one that we have not messed with any of the cards or anything on. Out of the box, this thing's still, wait for it to spawn. This is it pushing the settings to the NVIDIA cards. Alright, it's done. Close, minimize. Let's let this turd run. And let's give it Claymore and run. And
can you explain the correlation between how the ETH difficulty changed and the payouts changed?
And that's what happens if you try to run 16 cards in one miner. So what's the question?
Panic is curious. He knows that the ETH difficulty went down, but why is he getting the same income estimations?
Well, the estimations are estimations, and they're not necessarily. It's super predicated to who you're mining against versus what your 24-hour is. Versus there's like 5 or 6 components to the way that calculation works. You have a pool that takes everybody's hash power and pools their hash power, and it has a total there. That pool has a percentage of a chance to win blocks. Blocks before the hard fork were coming out at about 30 seconds, 32 seconds, somewhere around there. There might be more. I wasn't watching it super close because we were on Ubik most of it. But it was in the over 30 seconds. So 30 seconds at 5, I think it was actually 37 seconds. About every 37 seconds, a pool had a chance to win 5 coins. So whatever your distribution of hash power towards that pool, depending what kind of pool it was, if it was against full blocks and you were just earning credits to full blocks, or if you were just doing a distributed share, like a PPLNS setup, then you were getting a what they'd call almost a fair share portion of what your hash power was to the numerator, to the total denominator of hash power on that pool, right? So if you're just this small numerator and a huge denominator, you're getting a small percentage, and that's equating out against the pool's luck of having available blocks that they've won. When all of that probability that comes up is all based on what is the Ethereum difficulty and how much hash power is on the network to try to solve blocks. When Ethereum had the Ice Age kick in, it was logarithmically bringing up the difficulty more than how much hash power was available to the entire Ethereum network. So it was making the block time that should have been around 15 seconds go up to that 40 or that 37 second time frame. So when they went and did the hard fork, part of what they did is put a pause in, put a pin in the Ethereum Ice Age, and essentially repredicated the network back to network hash power, which naturally brings it back down block time. It just says how much hash power is there and auto set the difficulty based on how much hash power is on the network, right? So you're seeing some blocks just get solved right away because that block time was way up, and then when they went and adjusted it, there's a lot of hash power out there. It can solve blocks pretty quick. So right now it's going to try to drive it back down to, I think, like 14. I think testnet was at like 14.6 seconds or something. So they, at the same time, reduced the assurance rate down to 3 versus 5. So it's about a 40% decrease there, right? So you're going to have, since there was so much more difficulty, and that difficulty came down significantly. I think it went from like 2.9 terahash to like maybe 1.6, which is more than 40%, right? So everybody should have seen initially, if they were mining ETH right after the fork, they should have seen an increase of the income, essentially, an increase of what their profitability was. Now, as people have been switching by the droves back over to Ethereum, you're going to see that difficulty kind of spike back up, and you have that lower assurance. So there's going to hit an equilibrium again to where it's going to kind of look and feel like it was before, even with the faster block time, because the assurance rate's lower. The other part in that is the price of Ethereum. So the catalyst there, just like when Bitcoin halves, and Bitcoin actually halves, it's 50%, not 40% like Ethereum just was. When a coin halves or has a schedule to halve, the basic concept in supply and demand is that the supply is less. So if the demand is the same and you've now halved it, price should reflect the reciprocation of that. That isn't necessarily the intention of them dropping the assurance, but that's normally the net effect of something like that. That's if the demand is still up there. Bitcoin's a little different mechanism because Bitcoin is a store of value and it's a limited amount of coins, right? It's 21 million. Ethereum necessarily doesn't have a limit. So the assurance is just going to be the supply into the system that people can buy. What people are buying are to buy Ethereum for other mechanisms, not for what it was originally intended, which was a consumption mechanism to run smart contracts. If they're using it as a store of value or a medium of exchange to buy into ICOs and stuff, that's your demand pool right now. Since people are not using Ethereum for its necessary intent to lock up into smart contracts and burn essentially, and part of execution, locking that set Ethereum up into a series of smart contracts, they're using it for different reasons. So if the demand is still at a level that it is right now and higher, the price should reflect in it. And it's going to be one of those equilibrium things that's going to happen. Like, you're going to see activity on an exchange, and then there's going to be an ICO or something that people want to buy more Ethereum to get part of, and you're just going to see a run up in price because it's just the available supply is going to be less. And you know what tips the price and the volume is when there's a run up in price, people usually sell, right? So, and then that'll meet the demand that's out there. So right now, long way of saying essentially that you should have this period of time, as over the next 24 to 48 hours, you'll start to see the pools and everybody start to reflect the current blocks times and their current win rates, and you'll start to see what the real net effect of what you're earning is. And these first 24 hours, the calculators on what to mine, I know what to mine was still showing the wrong actual difficulty level. I think they may have fixed that, which was pushing it lower, but it should be, in at least over the last 24 hours, Ethereum should be by far the most profitable thing out there. But you know, it all comes down to the big game is the price going to go up in the reduction of assurance? If you produce a schedule where there's a halving, Bitcoin didn't when it first halved the first halve was a huge increase. It went from like $11 when it was 50 coin distribution every 10 minutes, and it went to 25 pretty much overnight in February of 12. When that happened, it went to like almost $200. So from 11. So the next halving was in July of 15, right? Is that right? 15, 16? 16. Is that last year? That was last year. Holy shit. So yeah, last year it halved again, and that didn't do anything. It literally didn't. We watched it. We watched the ticker. It halved. We're like, oh, hey, here comes the prices. And it did nothing happen. Nothing happened for like 2 or 3 months. It didn't really move. And then it went up to 1,000. But right away, when you have an assurance decrease like that, if you're still mining and the price stays the same, you're getting half, right? It's not complicated. The math is literally half. You are having your profit if everything stays equal, the amount of hash power on the network stays equal, and all that. You're essentially having your profitability the second that happens. So a lot of people will start to hold the activity because it's not worth it, or they'll start to step down. An equilibrium happens on either the amount of supply of hash power on a network, where people will just say this is not profitable, I'm turning my rigs off, which will start to drop the difficulty, which makes the profitability come back up if the price is linear or flat, let's say. So it's all that activity. Right now, for the next week, it's probably going to be kind of volatile, just because people are trying to figure out, am I going to mine Ethereum? Am I going to mine something else? You know, the calculators are all broke, but you can see relatively quickly that if the price, if you look at past everything else, if people are moving over to the network, just watch price and see if the price is stagnant or lower, there's a good chance that with all the people moving over, it's just going to make it less profitable, right? I mean, the math is actually pretty simple on it. And then if you're following the difficulty and more, you know, if the difficulty is going up and block time, now the only difference is like compared to what it's been the last few months, every few weeks the block time was logarithmically getting raised artificially. Logarithmic meaning like it was literally like by factors of double almost on some cases over a month period. The difficulty was going up 2x. Which was just like straight bars straight up and then straight bars straight up again, right? Versus if you watch the last like 3 years of last 2 years of Ethereum, it was kind of a subtle thing. Even with the little bump in March of this year, and even previous March last year, the 2016, you know, you had this just little lift, but the Ice Age artificially brought it up. That's what created that high block time. So block times will stay solid. The network's going to adjust to that to make sure that they're staying at the same thing. So you have a fixed supply coming into the system, the ecosystem. Every 15 seconds, 3 are outputting. Over the last few months, that was changing. That was 5 over 20 seconds, 5 over 30 seconds. So the delay of the actual inflation into the system, which reciprocates to you is your profitability. If the price is solid, then that's the impact of it. I think I'm rambling. I think I've told everybody the same thing a few times. Hopefully that helps. Maybe it confuses shit out of a lot of people. I don't know, but. That's kind of, that's how the system works. Alright, we're back on this. Let's get back to this. We're going to try a few algorithms and then we'll shut this thing down. We've been right at about an hour. I'm going to try to hold this to about an hour and a half. Somebody could be a boss later and drop some timestamps on this. That'd be sweet and swell. Because hopefully that little last part, last 5 minutes or 8 minutes or so, answers some questions for people. Let's check this thing out and see if we can get it running some other stuff. Was I small screen that whole time, or did I just switch? Okay, good. I was like, oh my god, they just saw a desktop that whole time. Alright, edit with here. What I need to do is I'm going to take some of this stuff here for like the AMD. I'm going to copy to other things we're going to run. So, go ahead.
Is Ethereum unlimited?
Yes. Ethereum is unlimited. Let's paste that in there. Let's just go ahead and get this all set up for all these. Paste there. Anything that is Claymore, I can set that up. Nano. Ethereum Classic. I highly doubt Monero will work on this. That's probably going to take all kinds of configuration to get that to work.
What's the last number? 58. What is it?
The last number what?
58. What is it?
What's 58?
I don't know. What's you're asking?
Let me paste this again and see if it says 58. Claymore, Divx, Ubik. Expands, Chain, FTC, Music, Signatium. I need to take out Dash, Litecoin. Okay. I was just seeing. I don't know if I don't think you can on Claymore Z Miner. We'll see if the DI works there. I don't think it does, but we'll see. And then I just need to grab the NVIDIA. I got the screen's bigger, so I'm getting lost because the screen's like oversized. So it changed the position where all my copies are. Here we go. Oh, that's the normal bat. Let me get rid of that. NVIDIA. Here we go. That's why I was confused. Need the NVIDIA. This guy right here. DI. Copy. Paste. Paste. I think that's it. I don't. Well, we'll see. Save. All right. So we'll launch the AMD first. You know I was, yeah. And I don't know what it'll do for, like, if I do 50, I think it'll probably just die here. Like if I try to do like Litecoin, maybe it'll see the NVIDIAs. Maybe that's a thing. Nope. Error created context. Well, so it sees 8, and it died. Yeah, I think we're just going to be limited to Ethereum and its mixes here. Like, let's try number 4. Which is, I have to be able to signify the ports. If I can't do that, then it's probably not going to work. And it just blew up. So that's dual mining. Does not work.
That's what he says.
Yeah, there's a handful of bugs I got in it that we're fixing with the 5.6 version. I think Zencash is on there. We also have an issue with library coin on one of the options too. We just crashed it there. So yeah, dual mining. I noticed that. We'll try a few more dual mining. This might be just stuck with Ubik and Dibix and any of the Claymore 10 single mining. Without some other configuration adjustments. I'm just going to run it real quick with the Ethereum or Ubik or Ethereum real quick to make sure that it isn't like stuck in a thread loop where it's just going to constantly blue screen now. So if we do 3... NVIDIA 3 Oh, I left the clock settings on the AMD too high still. $21.50. We're gonna save that. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do control find. We're gonna find anything that's 2150. We're gonna replace it with 2000 or 2100. Man, I really hope I don't break a port. Let's see here. Replaced 5 occurrences. Done and done. Save. That's a fast cheater way to do it. What is this? Oh, this didn't apply that's bone stock. That did not apply the turbo engine. There we go. So that's back to normal. Now it's a matter of getting the turbo engine thing up. There's 2 of them running here. I'm going to end task on both of those. Any questions?
15 minutes left.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just going to be limited to what we're doing right here, Ubik and Ethereum. I think that, I mean, we didn't do any other testing with any of the other algorithms. Mainly, it was just getting this thing to run. And I think right now that turbo engine's actually in the background trying to apply since I had it try to, here, I'll switch back to this. Since I made the change in the turbo engine to force the overclock in the startup, I think it was actually trying to apply that overclock. So if I let it set there for a second, it's going to fire up. It's just going to take it a minute and a half to actually come up onto the screen, apply the overclock that I asked it to do on default, and then it'll work with those. But I'm reading some of the questions. Todd Swinson, I had to work really hard to set settings on all the 1080 Ti separately to get them to work right. You have to do that sometimes. You know, sometimes you have to set, you know, you have to manually go in there and go card by card by card. You'll notice the way to check that, and what we at least check, is if I have like 8 cards and I'm using Simple Mining OS and I go apply the same setting on all of them. Let's say these RX470s as an example. If I press 2100 megahertz to the memory on each of them, and I'm watching it and it's like GPU 0 through 7, and then GPU 4 drops off, then I'm going to target GPU 4 only. I'm going to go and get rid of all the single override settings, and I'm going to go 2100 comma 2100 comma 2100 comma 2100 or 2050 comma, and then 2100 on the rest of them comma. Go through all that, and here I'll just show you guys. Turbo engine just finally popped up in the background. It did not make me a liar. It did it. I told you guys. It was sitting there doing its work, and it didn't even apply the overclock, the bastard.
It just took it that long to come up. Now I'm going to apply that. Now that'll sit there and spin for a second. Come back here. So that's the kind of stuff that you need to check. If you have a setting and it's not working, you got to go to manual on each of those cards. That's just part of the cost of doing business with it.
His follow up on that is now he doesn't want to switch to a different miner because he has to go back in and manually set each individual card. Is there any tricks?
Well, you can switch to different. So I usually copy that whole thread out, paste it into a notepad, and just save it. And then I switch the miners around, and you may have to manually set some of the speeds and stuff to the cards, but you should be able to switch the miner out. But it's just, if you're talking about switching OSs or something, I mean, that's kind of a pain. But if it's not broke, don't. If you got it working, don't mess with it. It's good. You're good. Alright guys, I'm going to start to wrap this up. Let's let this thing go. I'll give her one more shot to make sure she's still stable. But we'll be playing with this build. This again is the 16 working in Windows. You guys see that? That's what this whole episode was. After this, we're going to be working, put the other 3 cards back in there and try to work Linux build with the RXs. Just see if we can get actually one of the first 19 card Linux builds that isn't all NVIDIA, which is pretty much everything else that's on the internet, and then see if we can get that out to you guys. That way you can try it. If there's any questions, bring them up. You have about 2 more minutes, and then I'm going to wrap this one up.
Why only 16?
Why only 16? Because 16 will only work in Windows. 8 NVIDIA, 8 AMD. Windows.
So why not 19?
19 doesn't work in Windows. I have to use Linux, and there's no Linux OS right now that supports the RX mining cards with the P106s that's out of the box. NVOS is only NVIDIA, so the AMDs are out. You can do 19 if you're using NVIDIA cards, 1060s, 1070s, 1080 Ti's, 1080s. Along with P106s, you can do that. I'm not trying to replicate that. I'm trying to see if I can get RX series cards to work with the P106s on a 19 card board. Pimp, Simple Mining OS, Ubuntu builds, several of them out there. None of them work right now, so we're trying to get that to work.
Saying a fall creators update, will it support 19?
We don't know. Nobody knows. We will definitely give it a shot. There's a lot of speculation that it will.
So all NVIDIA would work on...
All NVIDIA works with NVOS. N is in Nancy, V is in Victor, OS, which is a Linux OS build that is for NVIDIA and is set up to work with 13 NVIDIA normal retail cards of any flavor and 8 P106s. Be it the P10690 or P106 100s.
Do you want them to send you a main PD file for your printer?
Yes, please.
No, don't.
Ship it.
No.
Ship it. bitsbetripping@gmail.com. Would 19 GTX 1060s work on Simple Mining OS? No.
Why?
It just doesn't right now. It's limited at 15 or 16, I think. And not only that, 19 won't work on this board. You need to have 8 P106 cards on this. I don't know why. We're asking Asus right now. We have an open ticket with them and trying to figure out what is the deal with needing P106s. Because we bought 20 of the Sapphires, 2 boxes of 10, to have 19 of them in this build. And it doesn't work. NVOC.
Your phonics.
Yeah, my phonics is horrible. But you guys know what I mean. It's easier for me to say NVOS, but NVOC, if that's the actual acronym for it, that's... We haven't touched EVA. This motherboard is scammy. This motherboard is misrepresented. It is misrepresented, and they did it to themselves. They did not. Asus is a good company, so either their marketing team wasn't audited and checked and verified. I'm really surprised that they got this out and did not disclose more clearly that you required P106s. They should have put on the front of it, requires P106 GPUs to get to 19. And it should say the quantity. If you're going to go 9 or 8 or 19 cards, you need to have these. That should have been very clear and concise on the front of that board, because it is super speculative about saying a 19 GPU board and then not disclosing that up front. It's hidden in the manual, and it's not even the easiest thing to read. Like, you can misinterpret it, like we first did. Genuine mistake trying to work through it. We guys had 2 videos with you guys like, I don't get it, it don't work. And to come to find out, reading the manual correctly defines that you need 8 of the P106s to get to 19 total quantity. Yes, hey, if you bought 181060s, you can use 13 of them with this board. You need 8 of the P106s.
Unless you run that Linux thing.
No, you need 8 P106s no matter what if you're over 19. You can only run 13 normal cards and then 8 of these in Linux.
But you said somebody was running 19.
They're running 19, but they got 8 of the P106s in Linux. We're running 16 here in Windows. We'll look at this one last time, and then we're going to close this out. I'll give my normal shameless plugs of making sure that you guys are out there going out to bitsbetrippin.com. We got some shirts out there if you guys are interested in that. We got pretty much almost all the orders are all shipped now. I think we got everything out.
Except for the 2 that just came in.
No, all those got out too. We shipped all of them.
No, like one.
Oh, we do have 2. Oh, we just had a couple come in, yeah. So the stuff that came in this evening. We got an amazing Discord group out there. Good community. I think we're over 600 members now. Facebook group. I don't troll the Facebook group enough. I need to.
Trolling is not the right word.
I troll my Facebook. I go out there to make sure it's good. If you guys see some BS out there on Facebook too, just be sure to report and flag it. I'll get to it as quick as I can. Make sure that I'm moderating it correctly. Facebook is just one of those things. Sometimes you just get a lot of people are super opinionated and they make that known. But you know, try to be nice to each other out there. We're all trying to help each other. I know there's a lot of new folks coming in on this and trying to figure it out. And you guys are all bosses for helping to fix it. Everywhere in the U.S. ships P106s in Canada.
Is there any?
Oh. So that's an interesting way to say that. Discord is amazeballs. Nice. Alright, that was the last thing. I wanted to make sure that was on here for you guys could see all 8, all 16 running. We'll close it out the way we started it, the episode. We're showing you all those wonderful guys running. There they all are. Alright guys, we'll catch you on the next one. There may be one more live stream. We'll check to see. Otherwise, we're going to have 2 episodes before the weekend. We are out of town on the weekend. Catch Twitter. We'll be posting out from there. Doing some camping. And we'll try to stay in tune. I'm going to catch up on some light reading. and check out some of the new coins coming out, and we're going to be configuring for Bitcoin Gold and a few of the other currencies coming out. So stay tuned, like, subscribe, share. See you guys later.